username, and instead of using an equals, we'll use a does not equals sign, which is the exclamation point. So show if username does not equal sagehen. So we'll hit Command S to save that, and we'll see what that does. Oops, I opened Safari again. That must be my go-to browser. Let's close that. And we'll refresh. You are not sagehen. And that is a true working statement, because right now we are Parker. That's who we're setting username to.
So if you change it back to from Parker back to sagehen right now, everything should go away.
Right. Let's change it to sagehen. And Command S. And refresh.
And it's all gone except the horizontal rule.
Right.
Which is right.
So let's change that back to Parker. And along these same lines, I think we couldn't finish this off without also showing if then else. Probably.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So let's take a peek at it in the docs just to see where it's at. So hit at a glance, showing and hiding category, if then else. And what was that little trick you did here?
That's a snippet minus.
There we go. Yeah, help people see more of the screen there. So if then else, this is a common statement in most programming languages. And these are the parameters you can and operators you can use with if then else. So I'm just going to go back to this page, and I'm going to do something like this. If, and we'll use the quotes to say that this is a text statement. It's going to compare based on text rather than numbers or math or something like that. So it's, or dates or any of the other types of data you can have. So if username equals quotes equals sagehen, then we'll create the then and else text that we want to use. Then hello, Mr. Sagehen. Else, you are not Mr. Sagehen. You are username. So here, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. If your username is sagehen, we're gonna notice that they are Mr. Sagehen, and if not, we're going to see who they are. And this, I wanted to put username here just to show you can put variable, you can call variables anywhere in the page as long as the variable is set hierarchically. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
Sounded good to me.
Okay. Basically set higher in the page. So we'll save that. Let's and refresh that. Okay, so you have the hide if context producing that. We have the show if context producing this, and we have the if then else context producing that. And now, just to show you what happens if we set t-username to sagehen, change that, and then save it, and then do refresh. Hello, Mr. Sagehen. So that's the showing and hiding, and I think it's an example of how you can nest WebDNA within other WebDNA contexts.
Oh, so that username Parker, it just replaces that with whatever the variable Parker was set to up above, or the variable t username was set to up above.
Right.
So even that's available.
Right. So we could you are not Mr. Sagehen. We could delete that out, and we could do something like this. Nesting inside the else statement, we could do a show if t username equals Parker and Parker, or and show if. Well, Mr. Parker. We could also do show if t username equals Johnson. Show if hello, Mr. Johnson. So when we save this, I'm sorry. We'll first set t username to Parker, back to Parker, and save this, and then let's also put a little break here. So it starts a new line. HTML break. Okay, so let's see what this does. Refresh. All right. So now that t username is Parker, the if then else statement parses the else part of the if then still statement, and then it parses the show if statement that for that one. So
one other question, Donovan, at that, if you can go back to the if then else statement, can you try just removing those quotation marks and just seeing if the page works the same way?
Sure. Yeah.
I know it's probably good practice, but I'm just curious to see if it still functions the same way.
Yeah, and that's the thing about WebDNA is you can, well, I should say it's pretty friendly.
It seems to know all the time and do the right thing.
So even if you're, I mean, it's still a programming language, which is always very picky, on what you type. But
let's see if this works.
All right.
Should be the same thing.
And it does the same thing. So this would only make a difference, for example, comparing if you have numbers in there and you're comparing via text, especially if there's some math going on, it can produce some erroneous results.
Sure.
So internally, WebDNA is parsing this if then else context as or numbers, or math, I should say.
It'll probably try that first, and then if it has to treat it as text, it'll treat it as text.
Well, it's actually treating it as math right now, which is fine in this case because it's producing the same results. So, all right. Well, there's one other context that might work well with our scenario here. So let's create another rule, and that's the switch value equals. That's a switch context. And here we can, this is a good way, I use this a lot to present content based on some value that's being passed. So, and a lot of the programming languages have switch statements. So switch